Welcome back to Locked On Women's Basketball. Today we're talking about the latest in this year's WNBA offseason. A lot of moves. Satou, AT to Phoenix, also Kelsey Plum to LA, Brittney Griner, and Bree Jones to Atlanta. Interesting situation down in Atlanta. We'll see what they are doing there. Some interesting stuff. And we have our buddy Jack Bonin here to discuss it all. And yeah, Locked On Women's Basketball starts now.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are Locked On Women's Basketball. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Super Bowl 59 is here. There's no way better to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. My name's Cruse. I'm your Saturday host covering the WNBA draft and prospect scouting. Today I'm joined by my co-hosts Emily Adler and Lincoln Shafer. We also have Jack Bonin, who covers the wings, writes about the wings for Mavs Moneyball. To start here with the first of these moves, let's just start with what Phoenix did at the top. Jack, whenever you see these string of moves with Phoenix, what were your kind of initial thoughts on what they're doing?
Well, when they traded for Alyssa Thomas, it was a signal that okay, they're kind of going all in. They're ramping up to improve their roster in a big way. You know, there was news that BG probably wasn't going to be back and that they were going to have to retool on the fly. So I like the Alyssa Thomas trade a lot for them. I think they gave up, a package that is not going to hurt them too much for getting AT. And then, it was obviously rumored that they were going to be super in on Satou. So once it became clear that it was going to be between New York and Phoenix, and then as today went on and it became clear that Phoenix was in pole position to acquire her, obviously that trade goes down. And, you have to like the big three for Phoenix a lot. They've got a great front court at the very least, and three really good players to build the rest of their roster around. But we'll see how they finish out the rest of their roster. Definitely needs a little bit of work still.
I mean, we're assuming that TB signs, right?
Yeah,
I think so.
I would be shocked if she wasn't on the team.
So now you got four players, and then you're either starting Semi Usun or Kalani Brown.
Oh yeah, I forgot that those players actually have to play for Phoenix. That they weren't just being moved away from the wings, that they're actually going to be on another team and presumably play minutes. At least Kalani Brown probably will.
Yeah, assuming that AT and Satou don't sign $50K each under the core,
yeah.
they're gonna need at least Kalani to play, because that is a salary they can't afford to just cut.
Unless there's more moves coming.
Well, they do have Natasha Mack, and AT does play the entire game.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
I like it. I think overall, just turning Diana Taurasi and Brittney Griner's cap space into Satou and Alyssa Thomas, I think it's good. It's good management there. They did not have to give they still have that 2027 first rounder. I wonder if they're going to trade it. I would kind of expect them to at this
Why
point.
Why not at this point?
The Phoenix Mercury have not made a first round pick for themselves since Alana Smith in 2019.
Wow.
That is the last time. They picked Jocelyn Willie in 2020, but that was part of a draft day trade. Every first-round pick since then, Phoenix has traded away, and they've already traded away next year's. So I don't expect them to ever make a first-round pick ever again.
They also have no picks this year.
They trade them, and most of the players they trade those first-round picks for, they basically cut immediately.
Yeah.
Nia Coffey, Shatori Walker-Kimbrough. Yeah.
Traded first-round picks for Kia Nurse and Megan Walker.
God, what a trade that was.
Two firsts,
lose.
Kia Nurse and Megan Walker.
So let's move over to the Dallas side of things here. With this move, Dallas was rumored to be in the mix between New York or Phoenix with this deal. I kind of believe that this is better package than I expected. Getting Ty Harris, Jack, what do you think about Ty Harris? And then now Nalissa Smith as well, number 8. What is your overall takeaways on that package?
Jack, can you possibly imagine someone like Ty Harris playing for the Wings?
Oh, back on the
It's
Dallas
hard to
Wings.
imagine. There's probably going to have to be a really good Photoshop person that's going to have to cook something up so I can imagine it. But it's crazy because Ty Harris was one of those guards that, if you think about the Wings and their drafting over the last few years, like, oh man, like they had so many guards or just players in general that like they spent high picks on, it didn't work out. They went other places and prospered, and Ty Harris was like kind of like the poster child for that. And like I remember when we drafted Ty, I was excited about it and thought that she was a good pick in that draft at that time. And then watching her for Dallas, like she just never figured it out, and like they didn't really ever have her in an optimal role. And of course she goes to Phoenix, becomes this lights out 3-point shooter, like this great connective piece for them. So I'm really excited to get her back. She's the kind of caliber of player I wasn't sure would be possible to get with this trade. And having Nalissa Smith, she has her deficiencies, and especially on defense, and on offense she's kind of like more of a concept than a reality, but I think it's a bet on talent. It's a bet on upside. Yeah, she's a good post.
It's a bet on talent.
It's a bet on talent. She has the pedigree. She has the skill. So worst case, it doesn't work out, but you still get Ty. You still get the 8th overall pick, and I don't know how much more you could have gotten. Yeah, a player who exists.
I'm really interested to see what Connecticut does with this, because they acquired Natasha Cloud, Rebecca Allen in the 12th pick. It was reported on the ESPN free agency show today that DiJonai Carrington is likely on the move sometime in the
Dallas.
next few days. No. Dallas, Chicago.
Defense.
But the Sun are in a weird spot.
Is it weird?
It's kind of just kicking off the rebuild, but also nobody wants to play there. So it's a bit of a problem for them.
And just bet on international players who like have never been to the States before, and you can trick them into thinking Uncasville is near New York, which it is.
This is as good as it gets.
And you can stand I-95 rush hour.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't trade back your own pick, just try to get Emma to come over. Just have Natasha Cloud, Beck Allen. Just try not to be awful.
7 seed.
Counterpoint. Try to trade Tasha and Cloud anyway.
But see, I would do that
anyway. Tank for the pick in the following year. The CBA is definitely
2027.
Definitely not. CBA is almost certainly not going to change what lottery picks are based on.
Yeah.
So like, dude, Juju and Uncasville. Oh.
Juju would definitely. If we're talking about the Page rumors, I think Juju's like.
I want Juju to hold out and not for another team, but to force them to sell to Boston.
All right, let's get to our first ad break and then come back and talk about Kelsey Plum going over to LA in a 3-team trade. This is a message from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Taxes are waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today, an expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return, while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find your every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy, all so you can get the most money back. Guaranteed, no waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is Taxes. Get an expert today on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Kick off segment 2 with the 3-team trade with Jewel Lloyd going over to Las Vegas, Kelsey Plum to LA, also the number 2 overall pick going to Seattle was the basis of this trade. Also, Las Vegas gave up their future 2026 first rounder. What are your overall takeaways here? Who do you think won this deal from the early takeaways from this deal?
I think the most important thing to remember about this trade is that Seattle got their Mercedes Russell replacement in Lee Yarou.
I think the most
It's
important thing
huge.
to remember is Vegas finally has a good guard defender for the first time in Mojef first ACL tear.
Yeah, I just was annoyed. The ESPN show didn't mention Lee Yuru at all in this trade, and I thought that was a travesty of justice. Because,
Xenophobic.
yeah,
That's
you gotta mention
SINO-phobic.
Zeno and Sino. Yeah,
Yeah, that too.
so it's a really interesting deal. A lot of it depends on the decisions of Paige Beckers and Olivia Miles, to be honest. If Paige Beckers and Olivia Miles both declare for the draft, this is an absolute win for Seattle.
Well,
I still think it's a win for Seattle no matter what.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
Unless they both go back, though.
even if they both go back.
I mean,
like,
knowing Seattle, they'd be pretty happy taking Seattle could very much trick itself into taking Anissa Morrow at number 2.
Iriafen
Like
could
they might take Dom,
absolutely-
Yeah.
but they would.
I think Kiki Iriafen could absolutely benefit from hanging out with Neko Ogwumike for a year.
yeah,
I mean, who
That
among
would be
us?
sick. That would be sick.
Yeah.
Sure, but Tina Pow Pow would probably be a better pick there.
Yeah, I think LA's perspective, though, is that they would rather have Kelsey Plum if Olivia Miles doesn't come out over Iria Finn, Dom, Morrow, Sellers, whoever you want to say at number 2 in that situation. So I think like in the short term, with risk considered, having Kelsey Plum is good.
They are luckily in a situation where when it comes to Kelsey Plum and endorsements and city where she wants to be, they're in a position where hey, if you don't screw this year up, she will re-sign on a multi-year deal after the new CBA is signed. Which look, if you're confident in your franchise, that's a good idea. If you decided to take a front office job with LA, you probably are confident in that pitch. Am I confident? No, but I don't work for LA, and that's why.
Magic Johnson is confident. In
There's
that
other
pitch.
reasons.
Yeah, Magic Johnson's really confident.
He's confident in
that
a lot of
pitch.
things.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I think LA.
Also, Jewel Lloyd went to Las Vegas.
That did happen.
Yeah,
Jewel
they
Lloyd
got considerably worse offensively and a bit better defensively.
We'll see what it looks like when Jewel is in a condensed role, hopefully. Taking less shots,
saw
less.
that.
yeah.
We saw that
that's
3
the
years
most-
ago, and she was still deteriorating.
Yeah, that's the most interesting piece of it to me is how Jewel scales down or what her role in the Vegas offense is and how they use her outside of just pure isolation scoring. Because can she get back some off-ball value? I mean, she had a really bad year from 3 last year. Does that bounce back when she gets better looks? Does she get more catch-and-shoot looks? What does that look like? So it'll be definitely interesting to see how that works out because Vegas, on paper, they got worse, and they gave up a first-round pick.
Yeah, they at least got better defensively here. So I'm not it's not whoa, a huge loss or whatever. And again, you can put Jewel Lloyd in the different context.
Mm-hmm.
I think it will definitely salvage if you can get her to buy into that lower role. It'll definitely salvage a lot that was lost, I think, from her game over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
But you still have this trend going from adjust for the bubble environment in 2020. You have this trend from adjusted 2020 to 2021 to 2022. Those years when Stewie was still there, and you had a very distinct trend that things were going in her game.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and if they're able to replace Kia Stokes with a more viable offensive big, that can
Isn't
also.
Stokes still in the roster?
Tierra
Yes,
McCowan's
yes,
available.
but they are actively searching to upgrade offensively at the big spot. That's been all the reporting around the Aces for the last week is that they're searching for an upgrade offensively at the center spot. So
Have
if
they tried
can,
back up Megan Gustafson?
Great point. But if they are able to pull that off, then I can see how that can kind of balance out the loss of scoring pop that you get from Plum.
So, Lincoln, you think they're going to look for an offensive upgrade at center beyond Cheyenne Parker and bring in somebody else, and she'll be the backup, or
Somebody else who's good?
Charles, why not?
Lincoln, I said someone who's good.
They should just call Jisoo Park. They have Jisoo Park's rights. She can shoot. She's very smooth, and she's tall.
So let's get to our final ad break and then run through what Atlanta's doing, Indiana, and a couple other teams this free agency so far.
We lost them.
From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. It's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings, whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some excitement to the playoffs. FanDuel has you covered. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, to kick off segment 3, the Atlanta Dream made 2 major signings at the center spot. Brittney Griner first. They signed her. Then a couple of days later, it was announced that they signed Bree Jones from Connecticut. Interesting situation here. Now adding 2 non-shooting bigs that are 2 of the slowest-footed bigs in the W at the center spot. What do we think here about what Atlanta's doing to surround their three guard wings are all transition heavy? Like, do you think this is gonna mesh it all, Jack? Where are you at on this first of all?
Well, I was a little taken aback when the Bree Jones news dropped. I thought that getting BG was, okay, cool. Bet on her insane offensive talent and see what else you can do to fill out the roster.
Mm-hmm.
And then, pairing her with Bree Jones, it just doesn't make any sense to me at all. I just don't get it. It's insane. Like, obviously, Bree Jones is not going to come off the bench, or at least from their messaging so far. Like, they've already said that they're going to change their style or change, the plan to be like all run and gun, pace and space. They're going to, because they wanted to accommodate a player of Bree Jones's talent. And I like Bree Jones. She's a good traditional big, but is she a player that you change your entire offensive philosophy for? I don't know. It's clearly a bet on just getting super talented bigs, where in the W, talent and the league that still does run through centers and bigs, and having 2 good ones on the same team is okay, we can just bully you, but I don't think it's going to work.
Counterpoint, playing both Bree and BG at the same time, exact same style they've been running for years.
It's just I think they're better players than what they've had the last couple of seasons.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
And that's kind of what they're doing here. I feel like they're just doubling down on what they were already doing, but
right.
They brought in a new coach where I feel like the whole point of bringing in Carl Smesko was to modernize what they were doing from last season under Tanisha Wright, where it was all running your offense through the post. And I feel like just by default, even if you don't want to run your offense through Bree and BG, by having to accommodate for how they play defensively, how they play offensively, as far as they're not going to get up and down the court, you're still kind of running it through them because they're kind of the basis of the system. So
you have to make concessions.
Yeah, I do not believe that it's going to yield playoff success. Maybe they just care about winning as many regular season games for one season, trying to be as good as possible, win a couple playoff games, maybe not even win a round. We'll see what they do here, but I don't. It's not long term.
I just don't understand why you would bring in a new coach in Semesco and have him have this new offensive philosophy, and you were saying, you want to update your system, modernize your team, and then sign players that, yes, are extremely talented and very good players, and you're acquiring talent, but that just don't fit that system at all. It's why would you go with him? Why wouldn't you just have gone with somebody else who is used to playing that kind of way?
This is absolutely a real Kurt Miller-ass team.
Incredibly Kurt Miller team.
It's a talent-wise, they got better, but is it really going to push?
It's easier to win some games, and a lot harder to win other games.
You have this dynamic wing duo in Ryan Howard and Alicia Gray, and
you are spending everything you can to prevent them from being dynamic.
Yeah, you're taking away their strengths and their optimization to accommodate for a play style that we kind of know doesn't win in terms of like winning something in the playoffs or winning a title. Like we know that that's not going to work. It's yeah. If you can get Bree Jones to buy into like being the sixth woman off the bench, maybe it works. But
you can't. Even then, I would like. Okay, I don't even want to play them together. Like, can they just? Then you're playing like 20 minutes each for both of your max contract, however they're paying them.
It's a bad allocation of resources.
That could work. You can play them like 22 to 25 minutes each. That's probably where BG is best these days.
Just have them go all out in those 20 minutes. And
right. Run the floor
Yokeli
as hard as you can for 24 minutes and vibe. And see what we can do.
We said the same thing about the 2019 through like 2021 like 2019 through 2021 Vegas Aces, and see how that went.
Not to be like a Mavs fan on the pod, but like that's kind of what the Mavs did last year when they went to the NBA Finals. Like had Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford. They're like, okay, you guys are both going to play like around 25 minutes, and
were they paying either of them max contracts?
No,
they were role players. They were like,
that's an important. But like, if you're going to make the team work and try to win to the best of your ability, like that is something that they could do. It's not the best allocation of resources. It's not the best team building strategy. But like, if you're going to make the players on your roster work to the best optimal ability, like you could do that.
Agreed.
Let's run through a couple more of these teams. Indiana, Sophie Cunningham trading her for number 8 pick in this draft, Nalissa Smith in that 3-team trade. Also acquired in free agency Natasha Howard. Howard is, I kind of think she's just a better fit-wise, similar archetype as far as like, okay, this is going to be a high usage for. Defensively, there's questions. I think by default, she's probably better than Nalissa, even if she wasn't good last year in Dallas.
Sophie could unlock some small ball lineups for them if she can. She's played a lot of the 4 in Phoenix.
She's a better version of Katie Lou.
Yeah, she's just KLS, but better at this point in their careers.
Yeah.
Which is really sad for many reasons.
Kind of just run out like a lineup. You get Caitlin, Kelsey, Lexi Hull, and then Sophie and Aaliyah, and you can do some things with that. There are definitely more interesting small ball lineup combinations for them that you can see.
No, that's probably their best lineup.
Yeah.
Offensively, for sure.
Sophie's shooting is going to
also
defensively unlock something at the 4 for them that they didn't have last year.
Yeah, and she's not a good defender, but like she's competent.
She's okay.
She's not a disastrous defender.
Yeah, she's good enough that she like makes up for most of her mistakes, like enough to not be a pure disaster. Which, like, hey, they had exactly one player at the 4 last year who could do that.
I want to
1.5.
I want to thank the Indiana Fever personally for getting involved in this trade and doing what they've done. As the smoke was rising throughout the day and it became clear that Satou was probably going to end up in Phoenix, I was just bracing myself for, as a Wings fan, for the return of Sophie Cunningham and the 2027 first. I was like, okay, the 2027 first is probably going to be a good pick. Sophie can do some things, good shooter, kind of connective piece, whatever off-court stuff is what it is. But I wasn't going to be like thrilled with it. Now they've taken that away at the Indiana Fever by doing something that I don't understand from a team building perspective at all. Trading down 11 spots in the draft to turn Nalissa Smith into Sophie Cunningham is, it's something. It's something you could do. And yeah, so I thought that their side of the trade really didn't make a ton of sense. Like it's probably going to make them a better basketball team next year, but I don't know. Asset management wise, it's a little tough.
Honestly, I was just surprised to find out that Sophie Cunningham wasn't already employed by the Dallas Wings as their social media manager, because that would explain a lot of things.
But I like this better if Sophie wasn't on a 1-year contract. That's the other piece here.
Everyone's on a 1-year contract.
Everyone is, except for the one player involved in this deal.
That's another part of it. But I mean, like, you're trading for a 1-year role player, and with how things tend to go is that these role players, that even if she's solid for Indiana this season, it's possible she's not even on the team next season because they can go out and get some, like, impact stars.
She's a Toronto Tempo.
Or, expansion draft, like something like that.
Dude, that city is way too multicultural for her.
I just have no idea what's going to happen.
But this draft, like, there's going to be some good players on the board at 8.
It's like Who would you rather have, Cheyenne Sellers at 8 and then have Alyssa and just try to figure out what to do with her, or have Sophie Cunningham?
Cheyenne Sellers for 4 years, specifically.
Yeah, that's the thing here.
Cost controlled.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that we've learned is that a lot of GMs are not feeling very confident about this draft, and that's why they keep throwing draft picks away.
Yeah,
Counterpoint, that's the dumb ones.
Yeah.
I
Seattle
think
has
it's
3 firsts next year.
I don't.
Seattle, 3 firsts next year.
One more thing I was going to say about Indiana before we move off them and the Natasha Howard. I think everything about Natasha to Indiana's kind of already been said. The defense, I watched every single game she played in Dallas. Pretty much, the defense has taken a noticeable step back. People are trying to say, well, she was on a horrible Dallas defense. She wasn't trying. She wasn't motivated. The defensive scheme was bad. Probably all true, but athletically, she's not the same. She had the worst on-off defensive splits on the team last year by like a substantial amount, like by like a non-exhibit for players that actually played real minutes. So I don't know. That's not what you want. No, she was dead last, and that includes like Lula Seneschal.
She hasn't made an all-defense team since Sabrina Ionescu was still at Oregon.
She can at least do enough things vaguely competently that I think it'll have a sort of cascading effect on Aaliyah Boston's positive impact on that defense when she moves out of like the second most demanding role in the league. But yeah, like it's not going to be a direct impact.
And on offense, I mean, she's slated right now to be like at best the 4th option. You don't want her taking shots away from Caitlin. You don't want her taking shots away from Aaliyah. You don't want her taking shots away from K. Mitch. So it's like,
I don't want her taking shots away from Sophie Cunningham.
No, you really don't. Honestly, like, I mean, she can go get in her mid-range bag and score in that in-between area. Like, she can do that, but is she going to be okay, like taking that back seat? And then she thinks pretty highly of her skills still at this point in her career. So how does she buy into that offensively? So it'll be interesting to see. I definitely think it's an upgrade over Smith, and that she'll definitely be a little rejuvenated, joining a new situation. She's back to playing in arenas, which is what she's used to. She wasn't used to playing in a college arena, and so that was really different for her. But she'll be back to what she's comfortable with now.
I would be pretty excited if I was Indiana, because I saw some 2019 Natasha Howard highlights on the timeline today.
Oh, hell yeah.
Great.
2019 Natasha Howard was like the most random, like elite peak year in W history.
It's because all of the good players on that team were hurt. So
But she was so good that year.
Team.
But she
was so good.
It's bad whenever people are posting the highlights from like 6 years ago.
Brian Adler was not the coach that year. What?
I don't know.
Before anyone knew what COVID was.
He was in Dallas.
I mean, he could have unlocked her there too.
He didn't. He never coached her.
The same year in which Phoenix made a 1st-round pick.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they ended up picking a great player who wasn't great for them.
Who didn't start a single game for them. She came off the bench every game for 3 years, was nearly out of the league, played a weird season for Indiana, and then revitalized her career hanging out with Courtney Williams.
5 games for Indiana.
Hell yeah.
And then led me to making like my coldest take tweet ever.
A couple final thoughts. Shout out Courtney Vandersloot back in Chicago. Hopefully they do not trade number 3 and they just stay put and draft someone.
We'll see.
That's gonna be a weird team.
We'll see.
It's gonna be a weird team.
Shout out Minnesota, doing some fun stuff on the margins.
It kind of feels like if Chicago keeps 3 at this point, they kind of have to draft Citron. Like, what else are they going to do with it, with that team, if they are trying to
play over the ceiling?
You would think, but
You're
we'll
right.
see.
I am not Bagliacci.
One other thing I'll say as just like a final thought, I can't believe the Wings got off Kalani Brown's contract in that deal.
The incredibly rare bad.
I can't believe it.
It's
one
not
down,
a
one to go.
team-friendly deal or a player-friendly deal.
Well,
Kalani
hey.
Brown signed through 2026 when the cap could spike by 400% for all we know. She signed a 3-year deal. that is not team friendly or player friendly.
She's an
Okay, so
anomaly.
seriously, I got to say this earlier, but on that note, how, as the team trading for the superstar, are you trading for the superstar and you have to take on like one of the worst contracts in the league, and in the process you have to give up like 2 good players? That's not how that should work.
I don't understand how any of this works at this point.
That's how it works when you're going against Killa Kurt.
Legendary dealer Greg Bibb.
Mm-hmm. There's no way if Greg Bibb was spearheading this trade, it would have been done 5 days ago, and the Wings probably would have got a role player and like
They would have got a second round pick in Sophie Cunningham.
correct. That would have been the move, and he would have been like, "Hey, look how great I did."
Hey guys, we got another backup center.
Yeah.
It would have been funny if New York tried to trade Niara for her.
That was our best package.
I hope we get some reporting on those negotiations, because I bet you it started off with Dallas being like, "Hey, you want to give us Leone Fibic?" And they were like,
No.
"Get out of here."
Yeah.
And then they were like,
That is exactly
"Hey,
what happened.
Yeah, and
They'll
then
get
they were
something
like, "Do you
better
want to
from
give
Phoenix.
Do you want to give us Benija Laney?" And they were like, "Not really."
Do you want to give us
And-
Satou's sister?
And
they're like, "No," and
that's
then-
about what happened.
Dallas was like, "Please," and they were like,
Then they're like
No.
Markeisha. They're like Markeisha Davis,
Like, the best
first round
thing is
pick.
Markeisha Davis
They're like,
Cameron
all
Burke
right.
in the future first.
"Like, let me call up my good buddy Matt and see what I can get from him."
Any pick you want.
Yeah.
It would have been funny if they didn't get a deal done with New York because they were trying to dump Kalani.
That was their line in the sand.
Look, we'll take Kennedy Burke, but our line in the sand is you got to take Kalani back.
They're like, "We can't do it."
All right. Thanks for making Locked On Women's Basketball your first listen every day. Join the team in the next week for continued coverage of women's basketball. Make your second listen Locked On Sports Today, the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Have a great rest of your weekend, everyone.